Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Aquarian Mind podcast. Today's podcast, episode number 222. I'm your host, Jamal Crothers. 222, angel number. And the irony of it is, it's Book Insight Friday, and I'm discussing Alphabet City 2. Yeah, just so happened to work out that way. I didn't intentionally plan this way, trust me. It's just coincidental, and I just thought about it before I jumped on here to record this, and I was like, oh wow, there's a lot of twos going on today. Anyway, today I'm delving into writing Alphabet City 2. Features main character Vicky, who is a mortician and funeral home owner and director. And I wanted to give this book the feel of what death is like in Alphabet City. And I wrote this book, that and it focuses on, just so many different aspects of, what death is like in Alphabet City, and having the only funeral home in Alphabet City within this 26 block radius. And Vicky talks about her life in Alphabet City and seeing death at her front door for the past 10 years that she's owned this funeral home. And everyone sees and knows that in bad neighborhoods that are full of drugs, violence, gangs, comes a lot of people dying. The only difference is this story is powerful because Vicky tells, her story of losing those closest to her, people she knows in the community that come through the doors of her funeral home and end up on the back tables of the funeral home. And I write it from an emotional and mental toll that it takes on Vicky to run the only funeral home in Alphabet City, and how summers are full of deaths, and how she really pretty much can't get a break. And there's so much that it takes to run a funeral home, and she is someone who is mentally tired and burnt out. And the thing with Vicky is you're getting every aspect of Alphabet City. People who are burying their loved ones at the hands of a gang member, drug overdose, or just being at the wrong place at the wrong time. And it's a sad reality, and while reading part 2 of this series, my goal is to make you feel and emote what Vicky sees, goes through, and deals with living in this environment. And wakes, funerals, and burials are a common occurrence in Alphabet City, but Vicky is now understanding that there's a price she pays for being an empath and helping others in their time of need. And just imagine being, someone who, is in charge of helping a family bury a loved one, and you see the mothers of Alphabet City walking into your funeral home saying that their young 6-year-old child or 10-year-old child was killed at the hands of gun violence, and you have to be there for that person in that exact time of need. And while you're there to, make money and, make a living for yourself, you have to, put a little 6-year-old child's clothing together and their makeup and put the last of their body into a small casket for hundreds of family members and friends and people of the community to come into your funeral home and mourn the loss of a child who lost their innocence while playing in a park on a hot summer day, and gang members are at odds with each other and they're shooting and killing each other. You see, when I tell it from that perspective, it makes you realize, like, oh snap, like this is some real deal ish that goes on, right? Because when you watch it on the news, you're getting a 2-minute segment of 2 gang members, and I can't even call a lot of these gang members men or adults because the majority of them are kids who don't have the right mindset and structure, and they're seeing things that really isn't life, which is fast money, nice cars, fly clothes, right? And they're either going to end up in Aunt Vicky's funeral home, or they're going to end up in a hospital morgue in the basement getting an autopsy done of how they died. Or they're going to end up in prison, right? But no one talks about that. No one talks about the negatives of being in a bad neighborhood. You'll hear about it, and you'll get certain perspectives, but you're not getting it from a perspective of someone who owns a funeral home in the neighborhood that she literally grew up in, and what once was is no longer. And she knows the gang members who are killing the people who are ending up in her funeral home, right? So this is what the story focuses on, and what it's about, right? It's not easy to write these stories, but the reality of it is this is what's going on in the inner cities of America. Now, does this go on in other countries? Of course. But I don't know the magnitude of it besides watching, something on Hulu or something on Vice News on YouTube. I'm getting glimpses and clips of things. I'm not getting the full-on experience of it, which I have experienced, and you guys know I'm from New York City. So I've seen it all, been through it all. I've lived in the inner cities of New York City, and I've lived in the suburbs of New York. So I've gotten two different perspectives, two different worlds, two different kinds of household median incomes, things of that. I've experienced it. And it doesn't mean that the suburbs you're absolved from death and things of that nature, because yes, there was someone that was killed literally on the block that I was living on when I lived in the suburbs. So the inner city comes to the suburbs and things happen. That's all I can say. I won't delve deep into that story, but let's just say I'm laying in bed, and at between 2 and 3 in the morning on a summer night, you hear gunshots literally 100 feet from your apartment. So that puts it in perspective. But anyway, yes, the suburbs, it doesn't mean things don't happen. But anyway, it's just the inner city is just more prevalent, and it's an unfortunate norm to where people are desensitized to death. And with Vicky, it's no longer desensitization of death. It's now she's feeling the effects of it. Now she's starting to see the magnitude of violence that goes on in Alphabet City, right? Vicky's goal is to open a funeral home to help with, the older people who pass away. And, well, yeah, she does have that. But now she's not only getting the young kids, the teens, the drug overdoses. Now you're also getting the people who are dying of kidney failure and cancer and heart disease, and those things, those unfortunate diseases and cancers that could have been avoided if people made certain decisions with their lives and their eating habits and their exercise and things of that nature, right? Because it's not all genetical. That I'll say. So the point is that this story is something that you don't hear about, right? You're not hearing of the funeral homes in these inner cities that are burying hundreds of people every year, right? You don't hear that story, right? But like I said, I'm here to carve my own path. I'm here to tell stories that aren't being written. They aren't. You can't go on Amazon or Barnes and Nobles or Kobo or Scribd or Apple or Biblioteca or Baker and Taylor or Smashwords. You can't go on any of those websites and find a story like Alphabet City 2 about a funeral owner and director who was burying hundreds of people of all different age groups and age ranges and ethnicities on a regular basis. So this book you're going to feel. You're going to feel. And that is the goal. And it's to bring forth the conversations of why. Why is this constantly happening? And there's a myriad of reasons. I can sit and go into it, but I'm just here to start the conversations. That's the goal for me. If I've done that, then I've accomplished my goal. Something to think about. So, with that said, Alphabet City 2 will be available on pretty much all major platforms except Amazon. You guys know that. So, link will be in the description. And you guys can do what you feel. Alphabet City 1 is also available on all major platforms except Amazon. That's the story of LJ. If you haven't listened to that podcast, feel free. Take a rewind, a couple episodes back, and you'll find it. So, that sums up what this story is about. Hope you guys take the time to look into it. I will be working on audiobooks. I know you guys are listening to me in audio, but audiobooks are a process. They're time consuming, and it takes a lot of energy to do it. So bear with me. Hopefully I'll be able to get some books of Alphabet City in audio format this year, and when I do, I will let you guys know. So with that said, that's my podcast for today. Thank you for listening as always. Have a good weekend. Be good, everyone, and go accomplish your goals.